come in with a couple of things, one of which is the baseball from the final out from the 1909 World Series. That was the Tigers and the Pirates. And it's in a case. Tiki takes it right out of the case. He flips it to us. And how is that thing not devalued? First of all, it's an incredibly cool thing.
Yeah.
But it's rare that you allow people to touch this stuff.
Well, this stuff is meant to be touched. You know what I mean? Obviously, you don't want to touch it after eating spaghetti or something like that. But it's meant to be touched. It's living history. You know? And if you hold it right, you hold it on the seams, you can certainly touch it.
My question is this: not that I doubt the authenticity at all, but if I'm buying this ball, and right now you said it's appraised at about 10, 12, 13,000, something like that,
10 to 15,000.
Okay. If I'm going to reach into my pocket, I know that there's verifications and certificates of authenticity. I have a few things at home, but how do I know for sure that landed in somebody's mitt in 1909 and somehow has made itself onto this desk?
Oh, it's a great question. This particular ball was caught by Fred Clark. He's a Hall of Famer. He was actually the player-manager of the Pirates. Okay. He caught this ball, and we know that. He kept it. It was in his family's possession, and it eventually ended into the collection that we're auctioning off October 19th.
Yeah, so it becomes like a chain of command thing. Now, how hard is it to get these things for you guys, as you guys at Christie's are selling these or auctioning them off? How hard is it to procure them?
Well, this particular collection is one person's collection.
Oh, gotcha.
And so that kind of makes it a lot easier. This happens to be one of the best collections I've ever seen. I've been doing this 25 years. And it's an incredible collection of baseball history from, the 1860s on up. And it includes items like this and baseball bats and photography, and it goes on and on and on.
You have the first thing you showed me, the photo. I've honestly never heard of this guy, and I'm a pretty big baseball fan. The first known photo, what was the guy's name? Give us the backstory on that.
Yeah, sure. So what we have here is Mike King Kelly. He was one of the first great baseball superstars. He was one of the first players that kids would want to get his autograph. This is the 1880s we're talking about.
Wow.
So this is the only known signed photograph of this guy.
What's his name again? I got to check out his stats. What's his name?
Mike King Kelly.
Okay, Mike King. Go ahead.
Mike King Kelly. He was the big star. He was the matinee idol looks. The whole bit,
he's rocking the stash. He's rocking the mustache over there.
He's got the whole thing going. He had the highest contract. They called him $10,000 Kelly, and this is the only known signed photo. Back then, people didn't sign things.
Yeah, no.
often.
When did that begin?
It began with this guy. This was one of the first guys that kid was kind of chase him down the block after the ball game.
And there was no other sports. The NFL wasn't around. The NBA wasn't around. Golf was, very much in the early attaching roots, and so. If you want to say that Mike Kelly was the pioneer in terms of all merchandise, it wouldn't be erroneous to say that.
He was the guy. He had they did a biography on him, and it was sold, in the penny stores. Kids would get. So yeah, this is one of the top guys of that era.
Joined by Simeon Lipman, who's in studio here on Tiki and Tierney, part of Christie's auction house. He's an appraiser. Some cool items here.
Now, you have a lot of Negro League baseball things there, and that book is a book. Tell us about this book a little bit, because there's only 5 left or something like that?
It's an estimate, but yeah, this is one of my favorite pieces in the auction. It's The History of Colored Baseball by Saul White. Now, Saul White was a Negro League player in the 1880s, and he later on became a journalist, and he felt very strongly, and this is 1907 we're talking, that the history of the Negro Leagues should be preserved. So he wrote this book kind of chronicling the history, and today it's one of the only reference works we have.
How much is that worth?
About 10 to 15,000.
Good, Teak. You got that sitting in your pocket.
So if someone picked that up, because how old was it again?
1907.
So 1907. That's a long time ago.
Old,
exactly. Yeah. If someone picked that up and they actually wanted to know the history as written by this gentleman, would this book fall apart? Because you think about that.
Yeah. You don't particularly want to read this copy of it, but luckily over the years people have had other copies which they transcribed, so you can actually read the book.
So it's in digital form.
I didn't hear this. I was actually looking up. I was still looking at King Kelly's stats here, and one year he broke the bank. He made $1,300 on Baseball Reference. I found that. You may have said this, so if you did, I apologize. The author, was he a black man or a white man?
A black man.
He was.
Yeah.
Or he is. Oh, was.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
What about the other photo there? That's again Negro League.
Yeah. This is the 1909 Philadelphia Giants, one of the great teams of the era. Had a guy they called back then. They called him the Black Honus Wagner. His name was John Henry Pop Lloyd, and one of the greatest players of all time. He's pictured in this team as well.
Now these aren't signed. That's not signed, or is this?
No, this is inscribed. So somebody put the names on here back then.
What is the trickiest, most elusive Not so much specific to a player, but I mean, I've been to a lot of these events too. There's a lot of bats, and there's even gloves, and at this point, the remnants of gloves because a lot of them are kind of falling apart. And same with baseballs. But what's the one thing that you just really have a tough time getting your hands on that when you do, it's kind of like the Hope Diamond of the of your industry? Anything jump out?
Well, obviously there are certain baseball cards out there that kind of lead the list. Obviously we talked about Honus Wagner, a Honus Wagner card when you find one of those. Now, it's not the rarest card by a stretch. There's probably 50 or so out there.
But why is it the most profitable?
Why? Because starting as early as like 1930, people were collecting those cards because the kids who had collected them from their uncles and their grandfathers, whatever, these were cigarette cards, right? So by the 1930s, they're like in their 30s, and they're like, oh, you know what, I want to complete that set. Where's Honus Wagner? He's the best player in baseball at that point.
So it gets
Where's
really
his card?
valuable.
So immediately it's valuable. If you look back at the price guides, quote unquote, back then, it's like $5. Everything else is like a penny.
Yeah.
So even 1930. So it's over the years. It's
$5 was probably about a month's, honestly, in 1930.
Absolutely.
Rent or think about that. $5 in 1930. You're going to stretch that for a while.
What about the current guys, like LeBron? I know he had a big piece go for $300-something thousand. It feels like they mass sign things. Is that really diminished, or is it just what does it do to the value of some of these pieces of memorabilia?
You look at it like this, all right? What made baseball cards valuable in the first place? You always hear, oh, my mom threw away, my cards when I was at college or whatever, something like that. I put them in my bicycle spokes.
Thanks, Mom.
Everybody keeps everything now. Everything's quote-unquote collectible. Everything's a limited edition. Well, 20, 30 years down the line, everyone's going to still hold on to it because it's worth quote-unquote money.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows if it will be? You know what I mean? It's all supply and demand when it comes to this stuff.
So. Simeon, how about, I would love to have this. I'm going to do this next segment for our Man Cave items. I got a bunch of cool things, so does Teak. But one thing I don't have is a stadium seat. Obviously, I'd be inclined to go with the old Yankee Stadium because I'm a big Yankee fan and I'm from New York. But even like Ebbets Field or Forbes Field or Fireman's Park, some of the old, really historical venues, are those things even accessible? Like, do you have chairs from the old Tiger Stadium, the old Comiskey? And if so, how much would something like that run?
Oh, yeah, it depends.
And how much of a discount do you get?
Yeah, right.
You can laugh, but
there's nothing in this particular sale. But yeah, I mean, they do come up, and people did hold on to them and knew they were valuable and certainly nostalgic wise. So yeah, they're out there. They cost a pretty penny.
5, 10, 15,000, or even more than that?
No, less than that generally. Yeah.
Okay, all right. What about, Santa was curious, how much would Tiki's old dirty jockstrap get? Mike was thinking about maybe getting that and hanging it on his desk so he can sniff it every morning.
I'm not authenticating that. No way.
This is cool, man. We're going to get some good pictures, especially the baseball from 1909, the final out from the World Series, the Pirates and the Tigers. We'll get that up for you on our Twitter account. Cool, man. I know that... Joe Favorito, I'm sure. Joe reached out to us about a month or so ago. It seemed like a cool concept. Pretty cool, man. I appreciate you coming in, Simeon.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Yeah,
Thank you very much. You got to plug anything? Websites? What do you got to get?
Yeah, it's Christies.com/baseball. And if anyone's interested, the entire collection is going to be on display at Christie's October 13th in Rockefeller Plaza.
Oh, nice.
Anybody can come see it. It's up for a week, and it's incredible stuff.